ignoring the other man she'd gone to school with. Wow, what an understated way to describe their relationship, she thought. "Hi, Abby. How are you?" Darryl asked, looking uncomfortable as he glanced at his friend. Jackson's gaze was burning a hole through her forehead, but she plastered on the fake smile she'd perfected since news of her divorce had spread all over the country and continued to pretend he didn't exist. "I'm great." Okay, that might be stretching things a little, but she'd just gotten a job, so that counted for something. "How are things?" "Good. Still teaching phys ed." She nodded politely. He'd inherited the job from his own father when the older man had retired. "Well, better get back in there." The awkward tension seemed to be making him squirm, and he opened the gym door and ducked inside. "Great to see you," he said quickly, as the door shut. Jackson's panicky gaze left her just long enough to glance at his disappearing friend, leaving them alone together in the hallway. She cleared her throat and waited for him to speak first. She had nothing to say to her soon-to-be ex-husband's best friend, who'd never disguised the fact that he disliked her. All through high school, he'd treated her like the third wheel whenever the three of them went anywhere together. She'd even tried setting him up with countless friends, but he'd scared them all off with his jerkish, I'm better than everyone attitude. Obviously, he was still chasing them away. She'd heard he was single, and it couldn't be his tall, dark, and handsome looks keeping the women at bay. She hadn't seen him in years, other than to peek over Dean's shoulder sometimes when the two Skyped. He was taller than she remembered, towering over her, even in her heels, and his broad shoulders and chest revealed he was a lot more muscular than he looked on the computer screen. His midday 5 o'clock shadow seemed photoshopped to perfection, and his square, strong jawline erased any trace of the boy she used to go to school with. All he and Dean ever talked about was hockey, and she often wondered if there were any other layers to the friendship besides a shared passion for the sport. Obviously, without hockey as the subject, the guy had little to talk about, she thought as she continued to wait for him to say something. He stared at the floor, his hands shoved deep in his pockets, rocking back and forth on his heels. Silence. Okay, then. Moving around him, she continued down the hall. His voice stopped her. "I don't believe everything they're saying about Dean in the papers." Neither had she, but actually seeing her husband in bed with 2 women was proof enough. Of course, she didn't expect Jackson to see her side. Slowly, she turned back. "Believe what you want, Jackson. I really don't care." He moved toward her, and her spine stiffened. His light blue eyes were dark and judging. "Adultery? Abuse? Come on. We both know Dean is not that guy." She hadn't believed him capable of the emotional and verbal abuse either. That had changed the day she'd confronted him about pictures of him and a Dallas Stars cheerleader she'd seen on the front of a supermarket tabloid. He'd gone on the defensive, saying nasty things to make her believe she was the one at fault for even accusing him of anything. Paranoid, stupid, delusional, just some of the angry insults that played on repeat in her mind. "I'm not having this conversation with you, or any conversation." They'd barely spoken before, why start now? "Glenwood Falls is big enough. I think we should be able to make these run-ins few and far between if we try hard enough." Though that might be harder now that she would be spending time at the school, which was right next door to the arena. "Oh, believe me, I'll try hard enough," he said, his ice-cold stare making her shiver. The sound of the lunch bell prevented her from saying anything more, as instantly they were swarmed by groups of children heading toward the school cafeteria. Her eyes skimmed the crowd for Danny. Spotting her coming toward them, Abigail smiled, for real, for the first time that day. She waved a hand, relieved to have the perfect excuse to end the intense, uncomfortable conversation. "Mom, what are you doing here?" Danny asked with a frown when she reached her. Not exactly the warm greeting she'd been hoping for, but at least her daughter was speaking to her. That small victory was short-lived, as she noticed Jackson still standing there watching them. Danny had never actually met Jackson, only saw him occasionally.